Hello and welcome to this review in which we check out what I can only describe as the weirdest organized farmers market you've ever been to. Downtown's farmers market is going to have you be placing these food tiles in a 4x4 grid, trying your best to fulfill these challenges that you'll have. Now, at the start of the game, you're going to receive 4 of these challenges and arrange them like so, choosing either the easier side with the black box or the more difficult side with the white box. You can choose in any way or possible, just set them up with the goals you think you can accomplish best. Then you're going to get 4 more to add to the side here. This is pretty much framing your 4x4 grid and telling you what row and column needs to be done in order to get the victory points. If you're able to successfully complete the challenge's requirements, you will get the points listed in the box below. They could have things such as a specific number of symbols, being the most majority food type in that row or column, or a specific number of just any kind of symbol, but only 7 symbols in this one. There could also be things depending on which side. So you will have to try to line these up best as possible to make sure that they don't conflict too much. Keep in mind there are plenty of goals, each of them double-sided for you to go through. So each game will have very different objectives for you. Once everyone has their grid set up, you're then going to lay out 5 food tiles, with a first person choosing one of these tiles in order to add to their little grid. Now, it should be mentioned here that depending on player count, once someone chooses a tile, let's say for the sake of this, we're going to just put this tile here for now, ignoring our goals. You may, at the lower than 4 counts, choose another tile to just be removed from the game. This is a way for you to interact and look at other players. Maybe they want, someone wants this tile, so you can remove it. This will continue until everyone has picked a tile, which will leave 1 tile left in the row. You're going to add 4 more so that stays there, meaning it has a chance of being picked up again by another player. First player is going to then pass to the person who picked last, changing the picking order. You're going to repeat this process over and over until finally you have completely filled up your grid. Once you have finished your grid, you're going to tally up the points, see which ones you were able to do versus which ones you were unsuccessful to. Whoever has the most points is the winner. This seems like a simple game at first, just picking a tile and placing it in your grid. However, what tends to happen is halfway through, you realize things are not as much as they seem. Now, I randomly put, as you can see here, tiles down, but what's going to start happening is you've been avoiding maybe trying to get that last things here and here. And now, in order for you to get a tile that succeeds here as well as here, you could be like, well, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need a 1 egg. Nothing else can go there. And unfortunately, then that can be similar here or here and have many different combinations. As you can see, they can go from 1 ingredient up to 3 being similar or different. So every combination is hypothetically in there. Thing is, it may already been drafted, may have been picked by someone else, or could have just been removed from the game and you didn't know at the time that was the one you needed. So what tends to happen once you pass that halfway point is players would start taking a bit more time being like, all right, if I chose this tile, I put this here, then I need a carrot egg. But if I put it here, this can be just a carrot egg, but then I need an egg here. Analysis paralysis tendency as everyone's trying to find that perfect fit, even if odds are you're not going to fill out your entire board. The only time I saw that happen was with a game in which we tried all the easy goals, no difficult ones, and even then only 1 player was able to do so. It's the kind of game where you're going to have to learn to make sacrifices, but the big thing is feels really good when you find that tile that is like, this fits perfectly here, and I complete both. Speaking of, as I said earlier, when I did the game with all easy goals, they're definitely easier. I'll say that. Some of the hard goals can feel really brutal trying to even just finish this one, let alone trying to fit it in with this goal as well, with this one interlocking in. It feels like there's still that match of trying to find, like, will this work out or not? And having the ability to flip over to more difficult goals is very nice, especially if you are not even more experience if you're just better at math, because there's going to be a lot of math in this game. But if you have younger kids, they actually have a mode in which the challenges are removed and you really just count on which you score based on the foods in each column. So it's a much simpler and more probably easier time that would be a bit more enjoyable. In terms of player count, I will say that for me, what's interesting is when you're not actually at the max player count of four. Usually, when you play a game, four is the obvious choice. But the way that the tiles work is in a four-player game, you're just picking a tile. That's it. So if you've ever played a game like Splendor, you're taking turns. Someone may take the thing you want. It stinks. So you got to learn to adapt. But what happened when I played this one at the lower player count, so let's put out the 5 tiles again, is let's say I went first. I picked this. Not important what I pick. But now it's my turn to remove one. In a 3-player game, only the first person does that. In a 2-player game, each player is going to get a chance to do that. What tended to happen is when it was your turn to remove a tile, one, it made you snap out of like tunnel visioning on your own grid. You actually had to look at what other people wanted, meaning there was actually a bit more of a less solo aspect. But the other thing, and this one may be just my own play group, but what happened is let's say this example before, I was about to remove this, someone would go, wait, if you leave that in there, I'll make sure to leave a tile for you, my turn, when I get to remove a tile. So there started this table talk conversation, which is greatly appreciated, in particular during the second half of the game, as I mentioned before, when the analysis paralysis really starts to slow the game down because everyone's like, oh, if I put this here, put this here, put this here. So if you know there's that good tile, there was actually some banter between the players that didn't just make everyone spend all their time just trying to find out how they can perfectly solve this. It helps a lot, but in the end, the core of this game is trying to find the perfect layout in order to score the maximum points from these challenges without losing too many to poor tile placement. Crits and misses for Downtown Farmers Market. Crits. At the lower player counts, players will get a chance to remove a tile from the lineup. I found not only did this have you focus on other players' boards instead of your own, but it seemed to have some player interactions in the terms of people trying to barter with each other in order to leave that tile that they desperately need. Do not judge this game by its cover. Its core mechanic of drafting tiles and its art make it seem like it's a simplistic game. However, especially when you hit that halfway point, you realize which goals you placed, how you arrange them, and what tiles you already draft may lead to a very complicated puzzle, one that will be even more difficult if you use the more advanced challenges. Misses. Unfortunately, while players seem to understand the idea that it may be near impossible to complete every single challenge, when you hit that end point, when your board starts filling up, the analysis paralysis really started to sink in. Players would take their time trying to not only find the perfect placement, but then think, which tiles will they need? Which of course would require a very specific lineup, causing each player to really trying to find out how they can squeeze the perfect efficiency out of their puzzle. This of course requires thinking time, which increases playtime. I wasn't as big of a fan in the 4-player count because all you did was pick a tile. There was none of the removing tile. Of course, the removing of the tile in lower player counts is meant to simulate a 4th player, but because you get to choose to remove it instead of adding it to your own board, I felt that actually added a bit more interesting player interactions when this is just waiting your turn in line and hoping that there's a piece left in there that fits your grid. Now, I'm sure this could be said for plenty of games, in particular RPGs, but when I was playing this, it really started to feel like some kind of math puzzle of if you have 3 carrots in this row already, and the goal is in order to hit 5 carrots here, but in the column you require 0 carrots and 5 milk. What is the value of X when X is the carrots required in the next 3 tiles? Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Granted, I'm a little biased. Math was the one class I was good at. But it will unfortunately cause that problem of like, you really are trying to think, what do I need here? What can fit here? And for something that, at least to me, feels like it should be a light, quick, fun tile laying game, the second half of it can really be drawn out. Now, that's not even too bad. I still had fun, like feeling like I complete something like, all right, I didn't get all of it, but I completed this hard goal that felt really good. The biggest issue, I think, for me, which is a little silly, is this is from Blue Orange Games. And when I thought of a light tile placement game, my mind immediately went to their own King Domino. Similar idea, you are placing tiles in a grid format and trying to score points. But I felt like in that one, One, I find the tile art to be beautiful and colorful, but it's somewhat simplified because you don't have goals on the side. You just know bigger areas and more crowns should get you more points. Yes, you can get some analysis paralysis the more people are trying to think, well, this one, if I put it, it will give me a total grand points of 5, while this one gives me a total of 7 or 6. It's not nearly as bad because you don't also need to think as much about the perfect tile. A tile placed in King Damo, you rarely kills a scoring. When in this, like placing this corn here, for example, could literally end one, possibly two challenges from even giving you points. So it really stinks that something in Blue Orange's own catalog is what in my head is actually knocking this down a few pegs. It's hard for me to think of a game that also fits the same area of a light tile placement, but doesn't have the same issues at the very least when it comes to that being stuck and trying to find the perfect grid for too long and stretching out the game longer than it probably should. This is a game that should be able to be played like at least twice in a row. This is not like the most challenging, hundreds of different mechanics interacting with each other with a trader lying about, but it's hard not to take your time when you're really trying to find that perfect grid. Let me know what your thoughts on are if you've had a chance to play this, what you think. Is my group the one that's weird and not only having the bartering when it came to the tiles, but also just taking a bit too long in turns? Or do you understand where I'm coming from and see how this could maybe slow things up? I'd love to hear from you and what your thoughts are on this. You can let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you do find this interesting or you know someone else who might, please don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Until then, I'm Will, and this has been Roll for Crit.